Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. All right. So we're starting off a little on the negative side here. And so I'm looking at it, and depending on where I look, it makes me think I titled YouTube, is this a maybe market crash or market gift here? And yes, thank you, Jacob. Charts. We need charts. And we don't have charts. We don't know what the hell we're talking about here. We need pictures. We're picture people. So this gap down, that's I'm looking at SPY here, really not a big deal. And like initially, you see where this is here at 463. This gap down after this move initially makes me think, okay, kind of a gift. And it did stall here, at the 50 MA, and now it's gapping down. There's no support here to the left. Let's see, three. And just saw initially the gap down being viable just because of the initial move. That doesn't mean it won't eventually go lower. So two perspectives here. I can really, just in the short term, of a gap down this morning after last week's move, pretty much continuous move. It stalled there Thursday, Friday, and now this gap down. And so we'll see what happens in the first 5 minutes or so to see if things begin to stabilize. As you can see here, looking at SPY, it's retesting this pivot. And so we have we have a lot of concepts and Master Trader and what we call MTS method, is that we look to the left and see, is there something of support there to rely on buyers stepping up and holding things at, even on a gap down. And as we look at that area, as you can see, I'm looking at the hourly chart, there's nothing. Now I know there's a little tiny shelf over here where these bars are overlapping each other. That's really not much, but it's been going down for a while. All right, so maybe it holds this area, but down maybe for good measure at the open, it drops down to 462-ish in this little space right there. We'll see. Now, after today, we'll see whether buyers step up and turn it into a gap and crap and green bar back up, and if it does, how far can it retrace into here, or does it just stay weak? And you'll see, we'll look at the futures. And one of the things we talked about last week was, hey, gap down, trading range. If it can't go up, it's going down. Trading range. If it can't go up, it's going down. And it couldn't go up. And so now it's lower. So as things go down for a certain amount of time, you get bounces along the way. Otherwise, it's a mini crash. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out. So we'll look at the futures, and then we'll get to SPX, because the juice is like juicy here this morning. I mean, almost what I would call a no-brainer put spread. How far away you can get, and the premiums are so juiced. It's like, is this free money? Anyway, I mean, this is what happens when things move like this, and of course, there's no such thing as free money, but we'll get to it. All right, so let's get to ES here. So now as I look at this chart, it's like, down, stabilization, not holding. I mean, this could turn into a bottoming tail bar, again, going to the gap scenario in the reversal, whatever. But if I was looking at this at the end of the day, right, which is the beginning of the day, this could be a bottoming tail at the end of the day. But if I was looking at it at the end of the day, I'm saying, hey, this is going to be a measured move lower. There's nothing to the left, and this thing's going down. And don't, of course, down to where? Now, you see on the weekly, the 20 MA right there on the weekly chart, lower left. That's the 100 MA on the daily chart, equals the daily 100 AMA on the daily chart. And there's really nothing to the left there either. And you see my little pink crosshair there that's lined up on the daily chart there, where I've got this area of 46,000. So big whole number there. So let's assume that this is going to be, an ugly Monday morning, and this thing's going to keep going down. And then we got a whole number down here at 46. 400,000 that'll come into play. There's probably some big open interest that lines up with SPX 4600. I haven't looked at the open interest, but just experience tells me, yeah, there's very likely there is. Thank you, McGraw. I knew you would know. So, but my assumption was just being a whole number. That's just the way it works. And it tends to work in 25-point increments. So as a downside target, if we don't get the bounce, that would be where I would say you're going to find buyers and just this area there. Get it down here? Not today. Right? And I say that as if it's a guaranteed impossibility. So I would say 99% in my mind anyway, ain't happening today. All right. So I got a big level down there. I don't know if this can turn into a bottoming tail. Neither does anybody else, but we see that it's stabilizing here. So when we have this kind of a down move pre-market, a lot of times at the open, just for good measure, okay, it's kind of what I call a gotcha trade. It's like they push it down below the low there, and then it springs back up, and big move down like that. It's like, okay, it won't go up. And it could go down, right? But you just look at things historically as to what typically happens, and as traders, and we look at patterns and look to the left and all that. But this type of I call it gotcha trade is, it's going like this, and at the open, whoever's panicked, they sell, and boom, it goes down through the low, and it springs right back up again, and they got you, right? As it rallies up into the void. So that's an idea to take into the open to see if that plays out, whether you're looking at spiders or the futures to see if that plays out. If this thing just hangs down here for the first 15, 20 minutes and doesn't pop up, that's not going to be good. It will not be good. And then, that opens up the door to here. So that leads us to, well, what about all of this juicy stuff on SPX? Which is, in situations like we have here, it's pretty amazing. And it becomes pretty attractive to consider, doing one of those put spreads where the juice is so enormous. And so as I look at 4,600, right, down here, it's like, okay, if that goes down there, there's going to be buyers. You're in the area of a swing low. You can see where the 100 MA is. It's a little bit below it. Anyway, it's like $3.60 by $3.90 the last I looked. And we don't want to get on the wrong side of this animal. I don't know what animal Dan would call this, maybe like a saber-toothed tiger. It's just going to destroy you for life if, you get on the wrong side and you don't take the appropriate actions. But, I said what to look for at the open, but let's not go for, the attractiveness of that. And if we can go lower and down it, and you can go above this, but 45.40, which is down here, you get your typical no-brainer, 40, 50 cents, you do some spread and, you make some bucks and you can move on. But, look, somewhere between that 45.50, which is 5% down from here, where, just 5% has brought in buyers over the last year every time. It is in the area of a prior low and below 4,600. So, look, you make your choice, just based on maybe what's happening at the open, the gotcha trade setup. If it keeps going down, but, you got to make some decision, relatively early on, and we'll see if it keeps going down. But in between here is some big, juicy stuff. So, you make your decision where you want to go. You look at your premiums, but it's so far away. I just like to use the term no-brainer because just the probability of going down here, in a given day, and it's starting with a gap down, just to travel that far down, today, historically, it's just unlikely to happen. So those are my thoughts on, short term, intermediate term, and so on. And eventually, if we don't have some big turnaround day today, which I don't really see in the cards because the internals don't support it. Maybe eventually it gets down here and maybe a bit lower. And as we get to the NASDAQ, you see, it ain't looking so pretty, but it's been showing relative weakness. So we've got two instruments here, one that's been showing relative strength and another one showing relative weakness. Michael's asking me, could you talk about when you trade SPX? I don't trade SPY, Michael, but I'm not saying you can't or shouldn't. I'm just saying that it's just unusual for SPY to have enough premium that far away. Today just might be the day where there is. And Dan always looks at that. But the majority of times it doesn't have the premium. Sometimes it does. But with this guy, maybe it does today. Naked or spiders naked. So that's the other thing. Thank you, McGraw. McGraw's very helpful with helping with ideas and what's happening as far as SPX and SPY and options and such. So when we look at SPY, it brings in a little bit of a different perspective as far as naked goes. I ain't doing any naked on SPX. No reason to. Don't want to. But on SPY, well, I don't mind to own this, on a move down. So from, an intermediate point of view of just owning this ETF as for, what's happening in the market. So, and so if you look at the premiums and you say, well, hey, if SPY juice down here is whatever, right? 30 cents, 40 cents, or it's dropping. And you know what? I'll own SPY here. Give it to me, if it comes down here. So you sell it naked and you put that money in your pocket. And if you get assigned, as long as you got the money in the account, do it. The market isn't going out of business. And whether it stops at 5% or it goes down to 10%, right? And you add to it. I mean, it's just, look, don't be a moron. And I'm not saying you are, but don't be a moron and put your whole account into it, and then not have any money, because that's what really screws traders and investors, is that they put all their money, they don't have no money left to add, and maybe they're even margined. And now they're just in there hoping to get break even at some point in the near future. So, the 200 MA, there's an unfilled gap down here on SPY. So there's thoughts on that. Now on the Qs, that's looking ugly. Power move up, and it's a great explanation or representation of the void concept and power moves and being the weakest link, that there's nothing there to the left. And all of those people with their fib lines and VWAPs, they're scratching their head and saying, how did it get through there? I had my fib symmetry and my this and that and wave counts, and this thing just blasted through it like none of that was there, because it was freaking meaningless. There's nothing to the left based on price. So all of the even moving averages, all of that stuff that is subjective, it is subjective, but sometimes they become self-fulfilling prophecies. And as we look at a moving average, we say, is there something to the left there aligned with it? And in this case, there isn't. And this was what we were talking about last week, that, hey, trading range, maybe it can get up into the void here, but if it can, it's going down. It chopped around again, it's going down. And so we have this little shelf right here. Let's drag this down here. This little shelf right here that it's coming into. So as we have something to the left there, again, maybe the gotcha trade and this comes down, and we got a similar situation here in the Qs, where it breaks down and pops back up again. So another thought, eventually, unless this turns into a monster green bar today, the greater than 100% retracement and back up, odds are it's coming down here. This is meaningless to me. I know it's their thing, this minor support point, that is subjective. It traded down below and back above. We discussed this in the green room last week, the concept of neutralizing. I also explained how there's a reaction on the way up here. You can't see it because this is so, well, not so, it's just condensed. When we look at higher time frames, we're compressing information and you don't see it. So that area right there, you can see my crosshairs on the daily chart. It's through it already. That's what all this stuff was over here. So, looking at this, even from a subjective point of view, it's done with. There's nothing there until it comes down. Well, we've got this little overlapping bars right here. So these little overlapping opens and closes is this little congestion area right there. But if it doesn't stop here, well, then you got the 200, which there's really nothing to the left of the 200 either, but it's 10% down. And then, of course, does it come all the way down here? This is, who knows? We don't know. This is where bar by bar comes in. Where does today end? Right now, in the short term, maybe a gotcha trade is setting up in the short term, but ain't turning nothing around, on this daily chart. And this is, ugly. Wide range bar breaking down below this congestion area. The Russell, right? It's just been crazy. Let's go to the, just to, reiterate what we talked about at the end of last year. And that's consolidation. That was all year. The breakout, which looked like, wow, this is fantastic. What the hell happened? Right back down again. This is just a great example. Trade without a stop. Are you a moron? As this looks so amazing as a breakout from a long-term perspective, it failed. And I don't know if this fails at this level here and breaks down and closes below here, there's nothing to stop this from going down. And at that point, it's like, okay, well, this is nasty. Yields are moving up. Is this bear market starting? Well, the yield curves are still pretty wide, so we don't have any information there yet. But our internals, which I mentioned, maybe they're going to get overcooked. They got juice. Well, juice isn't the right word, but they've got some gas in the tank, let's just say, before they reach a bullish extreme. Maybe they do today, but it ain't there yet. And YM, it's been showing relative strength. And we look here and it's like, it's just a viable pullback. Yeah, there was a breakout failure and that created uncertainty. And, but so now we've got the financials, which did great last week. We've got energy, which did great last week, and then Caterpillar, which did great. So this doesn't look so bad, Now, if it holds this area and, the other things that we covered hold in their respective places, well, maybe today's a turn day. We'll have to see how it plays out. It's early. Bitcoin failing. Certainly looks like, this is going down to 30,000 unless it has a big turn. And so Bitcoin's going down. And, last year we talked about the relationship, the correlation here between this and the markets, where this, the 11, 8, 9 was the high day in the markets, where they had some correction before December, which this only stabilized and the markets went up. But that was the high day in a lot of things. So this correlation with Bitcoin and the broader markets, is something new. So that has been happening. And so this is now breaking down and it's got room to go lower, which leads to, hey, maybe the market is going to do that 5-10% correction. Crude oil, been strong, kind of big trading range on the weekly, but nice retracement. And, oil stocks did really well last week. Silver and gold disappoints again. Had this bottoming tail bar and just couldn't keep going higher. So chopping. And we've got gold, looked great, came back in. And so I don't know. We'll see. And, transports, they're up at resistance. A little breakout failure, but we've got these, airlines showing a little strength and the cruise lines. So some, I forget the symbol, but if you look at ETF or S&P value, you'd say there's no correction going on here. It's actually at all-time highs. I don't know if it's SPYV, maybe it is, but look at that. So money is going into underperformers, value, safe places. And while it had a little corrective price action there last week, you can see one of the clues as to what's going on and what institutions are thinking. They're nervous here, whether it's inflation, the Fed raising interest rates, the nut job, Sleepy Joe in the White House, and God help us, I guess, if he should fall asleep and not wake up in the morning and the other one takes over. Who knows what'll happen? But there's a lot of things to be concerned about in the short term, and we'll just have to see how it all plays out. That's enough for me this morning. I guess I was on a roll, Dan. Sorry. All yours.
No, keep going. I'm enjoying this. Talking about Sleepy Joe. All right. So, we actually had more bullish suggestions in the letters, but, because the patterns were there, and that doesn't bother me kind of on the weekends, because we know we're going to have to wake up here Monday morning and assess. And if we get a gap down like we are, then, many things are not going to trigger. So they're fine. But yeah, Craig mentioned cruise lines. We have a put spread on CCL over the high. Alaska, I've been watching for a while. Poor cruise lines keep having problem with Corona and the CDC trying to shut them down. But our Vale is flat. We have very few open positions, but look at that beautiful breakout and close, and it's flat. On Disca here, I gave as shorting a naked put, and that's up 43 cents. BTU, we gave a long over Friday's high, that's up 20 cents. So the things, URG, so the things we're picking are great. Dove, I have on my, no, this is another long if it triggers. XOP, if it can take out Thursday's high. Let's look at some gappers here, not many earnings, but we'll go through them. Invex, up $1.50, down a, wow, I didn't know this thing got chopped in half. 3 weeks, this got chopped in half. Wow, keep an eye on it. Lulu down, so that along with the broader market is hurting Nike here, gapping $1 under the 200, but it's down a lot. It's in an area. Actually, I don't know. We'll see if we have any tier ones here, but that's a watch. iSig, strong trading range. We'll come back to. I saw Tilray dog up today. What's going on with Tilray dog? Still nasty downtrend. These pot stocks are just notorious. Whenever they show signs of strength, it's in the morning. And then so many times they just can't hold on to the gains, but I have it in a window. Thumbnail, SARK. That's a recent IPO. Look at this, $30. Very bullish week here, relative strength. Yeah, I think we have relative strength on the docket for an upcoming MT Live. And wow, this is a beautiful example of relative strength to the broader market. Wow. Caesar's Palace CEO was on talking about something, I don't know. It's in a trading range. Could this be a bottoming pattern? It could be, but it's had 3 failed attempts now, but it's holding support. So it's It's in a trading range in a downtrend. There's the VIAC got an upgrade of, I forget which bank, Barclays, but we actually were in this thing on the bear sandwich, VIAC. So see, we got in this thing 15% ago, and now the bank's giving it an upgrade. Why didn't you give it an upgrade a week ago when we did it? IMAS. Why am I looking at IMAS? Maybe it had earnings, but there's no pattern there. Polex, I think, had earnings, but here's an example of what I think Greg was saying. Things get clobbered, and if they cannot bounce, then that's bearish. My Costco low alarm just went off. I had tightened the stop on Costco here. Let me give it to you all before the room opened. EXEL 17 is gapping under last week's low. Sell setup on the weekly, that looks lower. EXAS, no pattern. Oh, I think some of these have positive mention in Barron, so that's why they're here. That's right. eBay is actually a 1, 2, 3. I like this. Nike falling here, so I'm going to set an alarm on eBay at 67.25-ish. Tesla is going to raise the price on their navigation system. There's no pattern. Beyond Meat had a nice 180 reversal Thursday. On the news that I guess they're going to Kentucky Fried Chicken for fake chicken. But this is a bull flag. We have conflicting time frames. The daily is a sloppy bull flag. The weekly is a 180 reversal, but in an uptrend. And the monthly is a 1, 2, 3. I don't know. NVIDIA. Yeah, I was looking at. I just like them better, Emmanuel, when they're closer to pivots. I mean, it is a breakdown. I don't know. That's just, we got to time it with the market. And all right, our UTZ up alarm. Look at that little guy. We gave that as a long. So 5-minute high as a go. I think I was looking at AMD also as a possible call spread. Man,
look at AIG. That's relative strength. I don't know. Maybe I should sell it. I don't know. It's up near the prior high on the weekly.
Oh, sure is.
A gap down, and this thing gaps up.
That's great.